there are now new proposals in Congress that, I hope you're sitting down for this, would make it easier on the banks. Oh, wow, I didn't see this coming. And it turns out, guess who's writing them? The bank lobbyists. Woo! Well, New York Times has a terrific story on it. It's in their deal book section by Eric Lipton and Ben Protests. So they explain this bill would exempt broad swaths of trades from new regulation. Oh, terrific! Deregulated trading by the banks. I bet nothing will go wrong, just like in 2008. So how did they do that? Of course, they purchased most of the congressmen on the Republican side. Well, almost all of the congressmen on the Republican side, and most of them on the Democratic side. So I love the description of how the bill got written. That's why I'm telling you this story, okay? They explain, in a sign of Wall Street's resurgent influence in Washington, I like that euphemism, Citigroup's recommendations were reflected in more than 70 lines of the House Committee's 85-line bill. In other words, Citigroup, one of the banks affected, writes 70 out of the 85 lines and hands it to the congressman. That's resurgent influence. Hey, look, they're telling it out like it is, and it is a good news story. How would I have written it? The paid congressmen that represent the banks and none of you decided that they would simply take what the bank said and put it in the bill. In fact, look at this next line from the New York Times. Two crucial paragraphs prepared by Citigroup in conjunction with other Wall Street banks were copied nearly word for word. Lawmakers changed two words to make them plural. I like it. Oh, I can't really think of any changes to this. Oh, let's make those two things plural. Okay, so banks, have at it, Hoss. Do you know how large the derivatives market is? This legislation would affect the derivatives market. This is always my favorite fact. We used to say 600 trillion, but in this article, they mentioned it's $700 trillion market. $700 trillion. Nobody could even fathom that kind of money, and we should deregulate that market so they could take more risks with it. That sounds like a terrific idea. Well, how in the world did they come up with this idea? Well, as you just saw, that the bankers literally wrote the legislation for them. Now, why? Well, the New York Times explains the lawmakers who this month supported the bills championed by Wall Street received twice as much in contributions from financial institutions compared with those who opposed them. Interesting. Oh, so they got legalized bribes, and that's why they took the legislation word for word from the bank lobbyists. This is how our government works. Look, I'm trying to shake people out of their complacency because they still think we have a democracy. Does this look like a democracy to you? This is a joke, man. And you think it's just Republicans? Get a load of this. But most of the Democrats on the committee, along with 31 Republicans, came to the industry's defense, including 7 freshman Democrats, most of whom have started to receive donations this year from political action committees of Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, and other financial institutions, records show. Now, if all of that wasn't enough, the guy who proposed this in the first place is a Democrat from Connecticut, Jim Himes. Jim Himes is also a former Goldman Sachs banker. So it's not enough just to buy the existing congressman. They plant congressmen in there, and he's a Democrat. Now, the one good thing I'll give Jim Himes, and I've criticized him for this specific bill in the past, and I say he's part and parcel of the problem, he is, at least he's slightly honest about it. When asked about it, he said, look, I won't dispute for 1 second the problems of a system that demands immense amount of fundraisers by its legislators. Well, that's the God's honest truth. Now, if you need to fundraise an immense amount of money and the banks have that immense amount of money, gee, I wonder who you're going to let write the legislation for you. You think they went to the constituents in Connecticut or other places and were like, hey, Bob, what do you think we should put in this bill? I mean, we're endangering some of your money that you put into the bank. Oh, right, great. No, they didn't ask you, man. They asked the guys who write their checks for them. In fact, some new group of freshman Democrats were taken on a tour of Wall Street. It's awesome. I mean, it's so brazen. They got to meet with Jamie Dimon. They were so excited. Oh, it's our boss, the guy who runs J.P. Morgan. Yes, sir, absolutely, sir. What other bills would you need, sir? This is sick, man. And Representative Himes also says, it's appalling, it's disgusting, it's wasteful, and it opens the possibility of conflicts of interest and corruption. It's unfortunately the world we live in. And there you have it. That's probably the most honest thing Jim Himes or any other congressman has ever said. Yes, we're disgusting. We live in a pool of corruption and filth. Hey, it's our world, though. You know, there's one thing we could do about it. We could change it. Oh, I got it. Let's elect a guy who'll run out of change twice. Wait a minute. We already tried that. That didn't work. Look, the only way you change any of this is by getting money out of politics. If you don't do that, the Jim Himes of the world will run in this. They might not like it, or they might revel in it. I don't really know what his motivation is. But the system is what it is, and it will always produce this result. It's a result that does not work for you. It's not meant for you. It's meant for the donors. It works for the donors. In this case, the financial industry. Now, you know how I think we should get out of it. Wolf-pack.com. In a Wolf Pack, you pass an amendment and you put an end to all this nonsense. They live in a vat of corruption. They're never going to do it themselves, but we can take it to the states. And look, the founders were brilliant. They put a part in the Constitution is called Article 5, that they said every once in a while Congress will get too corrupt, and what you'll have to do is a convention called by the states to put an amendment in there to fix Congress. This is exactly the time to do it. I mean, it's almost like Da Vinci Code. They put an article in there, which we haven't used yet. They said, basically, in case of emergency, break glass, use this article, have a Article 5 convention to propose an amendment to the Constitution. The states have done it 233 times. There's never been a runaway convention. You do it for a specific amendment, and in this case, it's to get money out of politics. Otherwise, we have already lost our democracy, and our congressmen brazenly admit it. Jim Himes is not the representative from Connecticut. He's the representative from Goldman Sachs. Wolf-pack.com. Become a member and become a part of the solution rather than a part of the problem.